Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, all. Right.
Good
It's
morning,
okay. I
ma'am.
won't be able to hear you. Can they drop a message to me,
Morning,
sir?
ma'am.
Is it open, the poll window? Right. Okay, let's begin with marketing. I'm sure the insight which you had yesterday would be benefiting you, and you will have a good idea about the practical aspect of marketing, and you can understand the marketer's perspective that why do they design so and so strategies, right? Now, to begin with, I was actually thinking to pick up this yesterday, but due to lack of time, I couldn't. But this is one of the very important topic, and I think all students who plan to do MBA or PGDM and take up marketing, they need to have an idea of which is known as four P's of marketing, which have been extended, right? You have four P's of marketing, but they have been extended to seven P's of marketing. Don't worry, I'll not just explain you what is product, price, place, and promotion, and people and process and physical evidence, but we'll try to understand how these four P's of marketing or the extended seven P's of marketing, right? How do they really make the strategist design their strategies? How the marketers are using these four P's in order to design the strategies for the organization. Now, number one, which is the number one P of marketing, that is the product. The first P of marketing, which is a very a simple way to understand what is product. Product is something, a kind of an offering, I would say, right? This is an offering made by the company to its customers. This is what I want to give to my consumers in the market. But now the question arises, what this product has to be. This product entirely depends on what we discussed in the last class, that it is based on your research work. I hope everybody remembers that how important research is for any organization. How important it is for you to do the data mining, how important it is for you to collect that big data and use it and mold it in such a way that gives you the relevant information. Now, if you are receiving that information, right, or you have some market knowledge with you, now how are you going to use it? This is going to make you decide that which kind of a product is in demand, because maybe your research is related to understanding of the products, the consumers' preferences, their tastes, their needs, right, their desires. So that could be the conclusion of the research. Maybe the another aspect of research could be, maybe you want to understand through a research that which kind of a technology would be actually useful at this particular point of time. So that means if you are dealing with some line of products, maybe it is like maybe you continue with the similar lines, maybe you continue with the same product in the market, but for how long will you stay with the same product? You need to change yourself, right? You need to have an idea that you cannot sustain in the market for a longer duration unless there is something new to offer to your consumers. So maybe this research tells you that maybe which kind of a new technology has to be used by you in order to mold the product, or maybe to modify in such a way that it is presented in altogether a different way. I'll just give you a simple example. I mean, it's something which you even must have observed in your personal lives. Parle-G is a company which still comes up with the same packet, right? Yes, it gives us that same nostalgic feeling still when we look at those packets. But the company hasn't stopped itself from manufacturing the other types of cookies, right? All right. I hope everyone can hear me now. And you all can see me. So this is a message. Yes. Okay. That's it. I got my reply here. So we were discussing about the first P of marketing here, the product, right? The kind of an offering the marketer wants to make in the market. That completely depends on the kind of a research done by the company. And that lets or makes a company aware that which kind of a product has to be manufactured, or if there are certain modifications required, which kind of modifications to be introduced, right? So this information, as I said, has to be collected from the market. Now, this actually becomes the basis of your strategy formulation. The companies would now be deciding and formulating the strategy. Whenever you conduct a research in the market, that gives you a lot of information even about competitors, right? So as I was giving you an example, the companies, they come up with a new product. Not only, maybe your existing product might be a successful product in the market. So I'm not denying this fact that your existing product is a wonderful product, but you will not be able to sustain in the market, as I said, for a long time with this existing product. So you need to come up with something new, because you have to make your offerings exciting, right? Always when there is a new thing, right, which is offered to you, or you come across to a new thing, there is an excitement that how is it going to be. So that is a kind of planning, and that is a kind of a strategy which these marketers, they come up with, and there is always a change in the product offerings. Another product, then you have a place, which plays a very important role. Now, when we talk about the place, that is a second P of marketing. We say that we have to make sure that your product is available at the right place, at the right time, to the right consumers in the market, right? That's what the place talks about. So place is basically, you try to segment the whole market. You divide the market, because as a company, as a marketer, you will not be able to cater to the needs and demands of each and every person in the market. So you need to have an idea about your target market, number one. So now, where is this target market, or which is going to be that place from where you're going to, release your offerings, or maybe offer your products being manufactured by you. So that is the concept of place. Is it going to be a physical platform? So that means you're going to have your own retail outlets, right? So it becomes easy for the consumers to shop. Maybe you do it via e-commerce, right? So maybe you opt for the e-commerce platform, right? Online shopping and so on. So now you have to decide from where this offering has to be made to the consumers, right? So that place has to be decided. Now, place always says that it has to be number one, from where it has to come, right? To which target consumers it has to be made available, and at the right time, which is again important. I'm again emphasizing that time is again important here. Reason being because time has value associated with it. Because if you are not able to make your product available to the right consumers at the right place at the right time, the value of your product, like, it comes down, it diminishes. So one has to understand that this, place and the time value has to be there. So if I'm going to Big Bazaar one day, and if I'm buying the products, I have to make sure as a marketer, that my consumers who are visiting my shop, they should be made available with all categories of products at one place. So I'm giving them convenience, I'm giving them comfort of buying everything from one particular place. Plus, it should never go out of stock, which is important. That's what I'm talking about in terms of the value here. It should never go out of stock, right? Because if the consumer is visiting your outlet, and if he doesn't find the categories he's looking forward, and maybe one day it is there, and the second day when he visits, it's not there. So that is not going to cast a very good impression on your consumer. So this, again, the point has to be kept in mind that along with the place, there has to be a time value also associated with it. Then comes the next aspect of it. Now, before I come to the next part of it, see, the place has its own value, and the marketers, the companies, they decide their strategies, they plan their strategies in such a way that they have a good collaboration with the, the suppliers in the market, right? So at the right place, I'm able to make the commodities available to my consumers. How do I do it? Because if I have a good connection with my suppliers in the market, these suppliers will be able to make the commodities available to me at the right place and at the right time. That's what these are the two components I'm talking about, right? I also mentioned about one of the important concept of EDI, which is known as electronic data interchange. Now, this electronic data interchange is something which is related to your time value here. This electronic data interchanges, because nowadays we are talking about that kind of a business platform where everything is like, digitally connected to each other. So whenever the information passes from a retail outlet, right, to the supplier, so how does that information go? Now, if I have a particular stock available with me, and maybe there is a required amount, there is a, there is one quantity, one minimum quantity which I have to maintain in that category. So if I move lesser than that, automatically that information passes on to the supplier in the market, and automatically the inventory is replaced in the stock itself. I hope I made my point clear here. This electronic data interchange talks about the change of information or change of data electronically, whereby the retail outlet who goes out of the stock, or maybe there is some minimum quantity which is supposed to be maintained by that retail outlet, right? That minimum quantity information, right? That information passes electronically, and that is electronically, without you making an effort to place that order again with your suppliers. Automatically, after receiving that information, supplier replaces that quantity. This is a very wonderful system, right? That gives you a time value, because, automatically within a particular time period, that, quantity is replaced, right? The retail outlet never goes out of stock. It's a wonderful way of doing it. So these strategies have to be planned. Now I come to the number 3rd, product, place, and now is the price. One of the component, or I would say variable, which generates revenue for the organization, right? If you talk about the product, it involves cost. If you talk about place, making it available, and looking after a number of other factors, again, you have a cost associated with it. But this is one of the components where you will be able to recover your cost, right? You will be able to generate revenues. So this is helping you to generate revenues. Now, let's talk about two things here. Now, as I said, a company would be deciding on the pricing. The pricing which will help them in, compensating for the cost, the investment made by the company. Now, for example, I add up my markup of rupees 100, right, to any X value of the cost, right? So this X plus 100 would be my pricing, which includes all the expenses, and plus I'm, adding up my margin also to it. So this is going to be my pricing. Now, when a company is deciding this price factor, what is exactly this conclusion? Is it that I have to quote my prices high, or it has to be low, or it has to be just as per the expenses incurred by me, right? What is it? Now, there are a number of things which the company would be looking at. Number one is, this is the easiest way of doing it, expenses plus margin. Number two is, depending on the product you are dealing in, which is a very, very important point, depending on the product. If you remember in the last class, I gave you an example of Didamas. If you go and buy a jewelry from Didamas, that means it is a brand. And you buy something from the brand, you really don't mind paying extra for it, right? So the price actually depends that what exactly are you offering to your consumer? Are you offering them prestige? Right? Or are you just giving them the functional benefit, right? Which is again important. If it is related only to the functional benefit, maybe you become just a rat in the race, right? Because there could be a number of other companies around who might be giving you the similar line of products, similar product categories, and maybe you are no different, right? So here, when you can give them something unique, something extraordinary, something different from what others are offering, of course, you can afford to price your product higher as compared to the other competitors in the market, right? You can price it definitely higher. And if it is just, as I said, you are at par with the other competitors, so definitely your pricing had to be, it has to be a competitive pricing. So we call it a competitive pricing. I'll come to this important part of pricing later in my lecture because I want to take this pricing part in detail. But let's discuss about all the 4 P's plus those 3 extended P's of marketing, making it 7, right? And then we'll cover a few other things with it. So yes, the pricing has to be in accordance with what kind of a product you deal in or what kind of a company you are, what kind of an image you hold in the market, and so many other factors. Now we come to the another part of it, that is the next 4th one, product, place, price, and then comes promotion, of course. Because without promotion, your consumer will never ever know about your brand, will never know what kind of offerings the company is making to them. So the promotion basically talks about advertisement. It talks about the sales promotion activities. It could be the social media which you're opting for, or the social influencers. Yesterday, we had a question also here, right? So you use a number of social media influencers in order to promote your product. The way it was promoted when yesterday in the last class, we were talking about Mama Earth, right? They try to use Shilpa Shetty as a brand ambassador and try to promote the products. Apart from that, the companies advertise. I mean, it could be anything. You do it on maybe in the newspapers or maybe digitally. Then you have a number of other ways of doing it. Maybe you give them some kind of schemes and all, right? So I think these are some of the general points. Everybody knows it, that promotion has to be done. Your product has to be promoted. Whatever kind of a strategy you're using, either it is your personal selling or it is your PR, your personal relations with the consumer, whatever it is. But the ultimate thing which the company is looking forward is to promote its product, because it is, fighting in a competitive market. It is trying to establish its position in this tough competition. So it is important for you to make your position. So that can be done with the promotion activities, right? So it's nothing but it's a kind of a communication tool which is generally used by the company. Now we come to the another part of it, the 5th part of it, that is known as people. Right? McCarthy came up with these 7 P's of marketing, and people is one of the very important component. See, there is one important concept in marketing which we know call it as a product concept. Now, whenever we talk about this product concept, we always relate it to the people concept, right? How is it related? Let me explain it to you now. Product is an offering which the company is making to the market, right? Now, this product actually cannot be manufactured, or you cannot think of using a right technology unless you have the right skill set available in the organization. So you need to have those, I would say the human capital, the intellectual capital, I would call it, or maybe that skill set which is required to govern or run your organization. So people, they play a very important role. I would say they are the face of your company, some of them, of course, right, which would help you in running your organization successfully. They are the ones who will be determining your success, right? I completely understand that's the last thing which you will be offering to your consumer. But whether this last thing, that is a product which I'm talking about, whether it is a right product or not, and in order to manufacture it, whether the right technology has been used or not, this is something which will be determined the people working in your organization. See, if you go wrong anywhere with your people, and if you cannot value your people, if you cannot give them what they give you, your organization is completely gone, right? So it is always said that these two things are completely related to each other. So kindly always make an association of these two terms together, right? They are as much as part of your business offerings as the product or the services being offered by the company. All right. Then we come to, of course, now comes the important part of it, because it's not only about understanding that how relevant they are, but what is the basis of, formulating the strategy once we understand that people are crucial, they are important. So how do you formulate the strategies now? Once you understand that you need, maybe you need certain modifications in your product, maybe you need certain modifications in the structure, in the structure of your organization, or it could be anything. That would help you in determining that which kind of a skill set is required at which point of time, right? So that is the strategy formulated by the companies, keeping in mind what exactly has to be done by them, right? That skill set becomes clear in their mind. Apart from that, what we do is we use a different kind of processes. Okay, so it is now not visible here, so I'll write it down somewhere else. Just a second. I'm writing, in the way so that you all can understand it properly. Number 6, that is your processes. You know, the processes being adopted by the organization. Which kind of a process do you adopt, right? You want to deliver your services. You want to deliver your product, right? Now, there are two things. The processes could be maybe before the, during that manufacturing, which kind of a process you are using, or maybe after manufacturing, when you make your products available to the consumer, which kind of a process do you use, right? So both the processes are important to you because, the delivery services are important. The way you deal with your consumers is important. The kind of services you give them, the kind of ambience you give in your retail outlet, that is again important. So this process again plays a very important part. That means how you make your goods and services available to your final consumer. So what kind of a process are you following? Right? So if you're following, maybe it is a home delivery system, or maybe it could be providing a good ambience, good facilities, good kind of salespeople in the organization. Maybe the consumers who are visiting a retail store, right? They're getting assistance from the people working in the organization. So there could be anything. So there has to be a good process because that would be enhancing the image of your outlet, right? So here, the kind of a process you have to follow again depends on, because now everybody is like, if I talk about this current time, right, this pandemic of COVID-19, everyone knows that now the shopping is done online, right? So now online, if you talk about the platforms which were not giving you online, has started giving you those online services now, right? So you have the delivery well in time. They give you a lot of discounts also. And there are so many other things. Like, people have understood that I have to change my process of delivery as per the change in time, right? So that is the process. The consumers should feel happy, right? They should feel the marketers and the companies, they are looking forward and understanding their needs and accordingly adopting the processes. So even you must have seen in your own areas, those kind of organizations which never give you, which has never given you those, home delivery services have started giving you. So again, this is nothing but one of the process in order to understand the customer's need at that point of time and formulating the strategies accordingly, right? So you cannot stick to the same strategies always, right? Maybe you have to adopt as per the changing time. Another thing is we come to physical evidence. I hope so, it's visible. Physical evidence, right? Now, what is this physical evidence? The term which is explicitly, defining, which is saying that there has to be an evidence which has to be presented physically. That is physical evidence. I hope you all might be aware of it, right? So almost any kind of a service which you are using, any kind of physical element, which is associated with it. So those services also, for example, you're going to a salon, right? That salon might be giving you a service which might otherwise not have a physical evidence, but maybe the kind of an ambience you get is a kind of a physical evidence. That means what you get in physical format, right? Right? That is the physical way, the physical platform, right? That becomes a physical evidence for your goods and services. If you go to a market and buy anything and that comes in your hand, that becomes a physical evidence for you, right? But what about those areas where the physical evidence cannot be concluded on? Maybe you go to a salon, as I was talking about. So it's a service being provided to you. So there is no physical evidence of a service. But if I go to a salon and get my hair cut, right? So haircut is a physical evidence. The kind of an ambience which I get in the salon, that is a physical evidence for me, right? If I go to a bank and, there's some kind of a transaction going on, and then I get something in a form of a paper, that becomes a physical evidence that I have invested so and so much of amount, or there is FD, or there's any other kind of investment. So there is a proof of it. So that becomes a physical evidence. So any organization which is giving you the goods and services in some way or the other, maybe they are tangible or intangible in nature, वो आपको कोई ना कोई interrelated, indirect way में physical evidence offer करते हैं. So that is again important. Now, here comes the point that how do the marketers, how do the companies, they formulate the strategies, keeping in mind this physical evidence. I know that my company, for example, I was taking up an example of those organizations who give services to their consumers in the market, right? Now, if I am giving them services, I have to make it exclusive in the way which maybe the other companies might not be doing, right? How is one restaurant different from another restaurant? How is one saloon different from other saloon? How is one airline different from another airline? So you have to actually talk about the services being offered by them, and that becomes a physical evidence. Now I have been able to understand that one particular brand was different from the another particular brand. Maybe you were talking about some of the airline loyalty cards, so that becomes a physical evidence for me if I'm using the airline services, right? If I'm using the airline services, if I'm using those flight magazines, right, or maybe the food and snacks which are offered in between, they become the physical evidence for me. So now using this in mind, because you know now you're not delivering any kind of a good as such, but there are certain things which you have to make exclusive so that you become different from the competitors in the market. So yes, keeping in mind this physical evidence point, the companies can design the strategies to make themselves different and outstand in this stiff competition. All right. I hope that makes my point clear. So these were 7 different P's of marketing, which are considered, which are taken into account before the marketers, before the companies, they design any strategy for their organization. And let me tell you one thing, if the company is able to understand all these 7 P's, right, appropriately and is able to work on them appropriately, I mean, definitely the success would be guaranteed, right? At least they would be able to sustain themselves for a, you can say the reasonable time period. So that is the reason why we have to understand all these 7 P's and accordingly design the strategies, right? If any of them is missed out when you're designing your strategy, that would be a pain for the company, all right? So would be here, the physical evidence would be a substantial profit that you gain after taking consulting services. Okay, all right. Consulting services, consultancy, right? I hope I made my point clear when I was talking about physical evidence here, right? Because the kind of services you deal with, maybe in consultation also, there are certain, services during that consultation which are involved. As I was saying, that when you are availing some of the facility, you get maybe you have food and snacks, maybe you have some kind of document, PDF document being given to you, or maybe digitally they transfer any kind of document to you. That again becomes a part of it. And similar is the case with the consultancy services. All right. So we come, I think this is clear. Just give me 1 minute. I'll get this board clear and again get back to you. Yes, of course, the ambience of the consultancy office is again one of the factor. Absolutely right. Why is physical evidence so important? See, I think you cannot ignore any of these 7 P's of marketing, my dear students, right? Physical evidence, if I'm talking about the ambience of a restaurant, do you really feel that ambience of one restaurant has to be really different? And ambience is one of the factors which you consider when you take a decision to go out and have your food? I mean, somebody who has asked me that question, why is physical evidence so important? This is Ankita Gaur. Ankita Gaur, that question is for you here. Whenever you're making a selection, ambience matters or it does not? Yes, ma'am, it does matter. Right. That's what I'm trying to say. There are so many other things apart from that, actual product. Now, so you understand, we just talked about the service organization. Let me just give you an example of those retail organizations who are offering you to the products, right? Maybe you go to any particular, retail store and you're buying some electronic item for that matter, right? Maybe you're buying a mobile set. Now, if I'm buying that handset or mobile set, whatever it is, right? So when you are going and visiting that retail store, you need to see what is the ambience. What kind of salespeople do I have? I really want, if I'm going to buy iPhone, I mean, I'm expecting the salespeople are educated. They understand English. I mean, you have certain expectations from that store automatically, right? So this is, apart from the product, I also want the store to be clean, to be hygienic, and at this point of time to keep the sanitizers, and at this point of time to maintain all kind of norms which the government has conveyed to them. So there are certain things, certain expectations of a consumer apart from those actual product being demanded. Okay. So yes, can ambience come into the place category? Why do we want to merge these two here? Place category. The ambience is basically, you were talking about making the product available at the right place, basically. Right. So places like it could be a geographical location I'm talking about. So if I'm producing something for a particular market, my product needs to be available in that particular market. Right. So I have to see that my exclusive group of consumers, they understand, that their demands have been met at the right place. Right. So if I'm manufacturing something for them, they should be given that. Not fully, because physical evidence is entirely on gaining the customer trust. Okay, fine, good enough. So can you please give me 2 minutes? I'll get this raised. It's 2 minutes. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can drop there in the chat box. I'll stay connected with you. See, students, marketing is something which is completely inevitable in nature, right? You cannot avoid it, and the companies have to be really strict about it. But to say, state it very simply, if the marketing strategies, they are not used wisely, right, they can cause harm to the society, as we were discussing even in our previous class, that maybe the strategies or the marketing efforts being used by the company, they are increasing the materialism, right? So that could be some of the harms which we have already discussed, which could cause harm to the society, of course. So marketing is nothing but it's a kind of a drug, which has always the serious side effects associated with it. So आप कोई भी medicine use करते हैं, कोई भी drug use करते हैं, उसके side effects भी होते हैं. Similarly, marketing also has its side effects. But if you understand how to use it and what doses it has to be used at what particular time, because you need to be very, very particular about your timings. You need to be very particular when it has to be taken along with what. So that makes it a little less complicated. Is promotion necessary for marketing? Promotion is a part of marketing, dear. Manish Mohan, are you here with me? Promotion is a part of marketing. You cannot run your organization without promotion. Promoting is what? Promotion is promoting your products, promoting your services. And what is promoting? I really want my consumers to stay informed, right? I want to educate my consumers that this is what I have to offer to them, right? And without that, how would the consumers come to know that this is what I'm doing and this is what I have to offer? Apart from that, even if the consumers are well aware of it, there is an marketing terminology which is used, that is constantly you keep on reminding your consumer that this is the product I have. So promotions are required. You have to, make sure that there is a high sales of your product as compared to the other competitors, because you are in a very competitive market. If you will not promote, somebody else will promote and they will take away your market share. And I think this you would never ever want with your business to happen, right? Marketing is the reason for the sales. So sales is the effect of marketing. Okay, so I have a lot of wonderful statements coming from you. All right. So see, now understanding about those 7 P's of marketing has given us an insight that the marketers would be keeping in mind all these 7 factors, the 7 P's. We call it the marketing mix, basically, and they will be developing the strategies, right? Now, whenever the company is developing a strategy, now let me just throw some light here. Whenever you plan something for the future, that is your strategy, right? Strategy, something which you would like to do in the near future, or maybe in long-term future, whatever it could be. It can be your short-term strategy or it can be your long-term strategy, depending on what exactly you want to do with your business. Now, when the company is designing a strategy, when it is doing a planning, it is definitely looking into the future, right? It is peeping into the future and it is trying to understand how the market would be in the coming years, right? And that becomes, that information, that data becomes my basis of making plan or my basis of making strategies. Very simple concept. Now, once the company is clear or it has some kind of a picture or some information, I would say, about future, right? Now, this information about future, I have done as a marketer, I have done a lot of research in the market. So I am informed that this is how the future would look like, Now, this is how the future would look like. And this is going to give me an idea that my strategies or the planning should be based on this information. Now, what happens is next, when the companies, they become confident that whatever planning or whatever strategies they are developing for the future is based on their research, they become actually very, very confident. So here are two very, very important things, right? I would majorly, there are many, but I'll focus on two or three of them, the major issues. Or I would say there are certain concerns, right, related to strategy formulation, right? Because the marketers, they are dependent on this future, right? This future information which is coming to you based on the research. Research has given you a lot of information. So the concept to the concept of strategy, I would say, to real life situation would be oversimplifying the things. Oversimplification. Now, what is this oversimplification? Now you are doing a research in the market. So what exactly you do? If you remember in the last class, I was talking about if you have a particular population, right, in the market, you would be actually selecting, a good sample size, a decent sample size, a reasonable sample size from that population, which becomes the true representation of the population. And then you do a research on it, right? That's what it. So now it makes your things little oversimplified. The people who are making the strategies, they really feel it is so simple, right? That you are collecting the information and then you are making the plans, right? So it tends to basically oversimplify the things, and whatever results you get, based on that research, based on the information which you get from the market, you tend to design the strategies, and it is actually it actually becomes a basis sometimes for the organization failure, right? Because आपने चीजों को oversimplify कर दिया है. Reason being, you have tried to understand the future, and it is as simple as that. Future is not 100% predictable, right? So you try to oversimplify, right, in terms of obtaining the information, and whatever strategies you decide, you make based on that, that becomes sometimes your basis of failure. Now, that does not mean that you will not be, accumulating the information. That does not mean that you should not be conducting a research in the market. That does not mean that you should not be collecting that big data and doing and do that, data analysis to get the relevant figures for you. That does not mean. But yes, there should not be an oversimplification. You should not rely completely on the information being obtained about the future. Because yes, I completely understand when you talk about the present market, maybe you can get the data which you can rely on, but the future is so much unpredictable. How much you can say that data or information would give you, the validity, how much validity is there and how much you can rely on? It's a big question mark. So don't oversimplify the things. Yes, you're trying to make your judgments and strategies in such a way that gives you a good direction for the future, right? But one has to keep in mind that there are certain risk factors also associated with it. इसी के साथ associated with it, another point which is related to it, that it actually blinds the company. It's a point related to the above point, right? Can I have a different marker, sir? Now, what is happening? आपने oversimplify किया चीजों को, right? And it becomes sometimes, because if you do not have the relevant data or maybe the right data, and that has resulted into the failure of the organization. Now, it is blinding the company in the sense, the company feels that it has done a lot of extensive research in the market, right? It has incurred so much of expenditure, right? So, of course, the data it has accumulated has to be the data which the company can rely on. So as a result, the company uses that data and implements the strategies, implements the same strategies. Now you are using the same strategy. Now, if you're using the same strategy, that means you are not keeping in mind any kind of a change taking place in the society, any kind of a change taking place in your business environment or a market. So it is definitely blinding the company, where the company is relying on the information collected based on the research. Now, as a result, based on that research, you made a strategy, and then in future, you implement the same strategy. It goes just as a connected parameters, right? Now, the company does not keep in mind that how the market is reacting. Maybe I assumed something for the future, but it did not actually turn out to be. So in that situation, this blinding of the company is related to the rigidity of the company. The company becomes rigid. The company does not take into consideration that even if it has formulated the strategy based on the research, it is not able to believe that my research could anywhere go wrong, and I have to really sometimes change the strategy as per the changing time. So this becomes one of the question mark again. So yes, of course, these kind of things, as we were talking about, understanding the market and doing an extensive research in the market gives you the relevant data. But it is suggested to the companies that they should not be doing so much of, simplification, or, they should not be rigid in implementing their strategies, that there is no scope of any new things to incorporate. So your strategy formulation has to be such which leaves the scope so that you can come up, incorporate some new things, and maybe reform and reframe the strategies as per the changing time. So that has to be again kept in mind. So that is again a very, very important thing. यहाँ पर मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देना चाहूंगी. This is everybody knows about what exactly happened with Nokia. It was a major failure in the market. Failure in the market, and at one point of time, the company was a successful company. Right. At that time, I'm talking about the time when the Nokia did not understand the market completely. When Nokia could not understand, there are certain factors in the market which are mandatory for the company to be well understood and incorporate the change. So that has resulted into Nokia failure to a very great extent. Nokia, number one, it suffered from the organizational fear. Right? This is a very, very important thing here, because organizational fear, in the sense, the organization fear which is related to the kind of a culture Nokia had, right? And the kind of leaders which were governing their organization, and the middle level managers, they were also very scared. These middle level managers, they were never ever been able to communicate the right information to the top level management. So some kind of organizational fear has always been there, be it in the top level management or in the lower level management. So they were not able to understand the situation properly, and even if they understood it, they were not able to communicate it to the right person. So middle level managers who were in direct contact with the market, right? They had a lot of information about the market, but the kind of strategies which were formulated by Nokia, right? They were as it is, right? As it was at that point of time, were implemented without any kind of a change, right? So it was basically because middle level managers, they had this kind of a fear that even if I communicate this to my top level management, the top level management is so rigid that it is not going to change its decision. So that was one of the reasons. This is what I'm talking about in terms of Nokia's internal disputes which were happening. Yes, there were a number of other causes also. And as I said, middle level management was very, very, you can say scared of telling any kind of a truth to the top level management. And of course, the top level management, if I talk from their perspective, they were afraid of the external environment, right? They were also very sure that the middle level managers are not able to meet their targets at all. So as a result, it is one of the constraints of the company. It is one of the factors which would definitely bring down the company's success, because the other companies at that point of time, if I talk about the iPhone, Apple, right, that was doing wonderfully well. That started doing wonderfully well at that point of time. So executives who were working in the company, they were afraid, and they were not able to acknowledge that publicly, that, at the time when Symbian, the Nokia's operating system, which was launched, right? It was very inferior in quality, and they knew it that this is not going to compete with the other operating systems being offered by the companies at that point of time. So it became one of the cause of failure of the company. So one has to really understand that if I'm designing some strategy, not necessarily that the strategy would be successful in future. I really have to see what the other companies are doing. I have to see that what kind of an operating system, as from Nokia's perspective, that which kind of an operating system is good enough, like at that point of time, what is the need of an hour. And of course, the company also had an idea. They knew that it would be taking a little longer for them to develop a better operating system than which was being offered by Apple. But they really did not, spend so much of time to make their, operating system in competence with the other operating systems at that time. So, and of course, top executives, the top level management, they were also afraid of losing their good, human capital, which was, with them at that point of time, because they were not cooperating with them, and the investors, they also lost their investors. So a lot of there was a lot of hodgepodge going on within the management, right? They could not understand the market completely. They could not understand the people working in their organization completely. They did not even take their opinion while designing the strategy and then implementing the strategy. So kahi na kahi, you really need to trust the resources you have in your concern, right? Now, resources in the sense, you need to trust your human capital, right? The people, the managers, the executives working in the middle level. I mean, you need to trust them, because the kind of information which is provided to you, maybe that is relevant and which was never taken into account by the top level management when they decided to build up the strategies. So yes, a lot of things, a lot of hodgepodge, and that actually resulted into the ultimate downfall of Nokia. Now, whenever a business is dealing in a particular line of product, I leave the example of Nokia here because that's enough to talk about that company. I just wanted to make you understand that strategies should not be rigid, right? You need to keep in mind that this rigidity stops your brainstorming completely, and you have to be who has to adapt itself completely with the current market, right? Now, what I was thinking that since we have understood a lot about the strategy formulation, it is very important for us to understand how the businesses are making money, right? That's very important for marketing students to understand how the businesses in the market are making money, right? Number one is that we need to understand what is the business definition. We need to understand what is the business definition of a company. Don't worry, I'll not give you any kind of a definition here because I am not going bookish here, right? Business definition is something which is defining your business as business definition, right? That means what your business will be, and, or I would say, what your business should be, right? So business definition is talking about your business. What exactly I want my business to be like, right? How it should work in the market and how it should be perceived by me as well as my consumer. That is my business definition, right? Now, each and every person working in your organization might be looking at your business from a different perspective. But what the top level management, that means the owners of the organization, look at the business, and how the customers of your business look at your business actually defines your business, right? So business definition is the kind of a business you are in, the kind or the category which you are offering to your consumers. Here, I would like to highlight three important components which defines the business definition completely. Number one is your customer function, right? As simple as that this customer, dear students, you don't need to write anything there. I will precisely form a good PPT for you, and I'll hand it over to my IT department, and they will upload the same for your reference, right? So do not concentrate more on writing the points which I'm writing here. Just pay attention to whatever I'm talking about right now. So yes, customer function is, if you remember, even in the last class, we discussed about one example where I was trying to give you an idea that one category or one product might have two different kind of benefits, right? Two different category of consumers here. Number one, I would say maybe a customer is buying, maybe I given him an example of a watch here, right? If you are buying a watch, maybe because you want to have a track over time, right? As simple as that. So that means you're focusing on the functional benefit of a product. That is one point. So you're buying a watch because you want to get that functional benefit. Maybe if you talk about the females in the market, they have all different kind of watches matching with their dresses, right? So can I say they will have an ornamental benefit associated with it? Yes, there will be an ornamental benefit, right? I don't say that you might be having 20 or 30 with you, but yes, you would like to match it with the kind of an outfit you wear, right? It enhances, or it gives you, it's a kind of an accessory basically, right? And enhances your overall personality. So there is an ornamental benefit associated with buying a watch, right? So this is one of the component here, which is again defining your business, that your business is providing a customer function. So maybe from one category of consumer, it is looked at as something which has a usage. From the another point of view, I don't mind spending extra because it is giving me an ornamental benefit, or maybe it could be a prestige which I'm looking forward, and so many other factors. So that could be any of the reasons here. There is another thing which is used while your business is operating, that which kind of a technology your business is using. And we call it the alternative technology part, right? So that is the second component of it. And I will call it the alternate technology. Now, alternate technology is that when you are producing a good, right, there could be different kind of techniques which can be adopted by you, right? Maybe you're using it as a, maybe there is a mechanical, watch, or maybe there is quartz, right? So these are two different kind of technology. So this is basically telling you that how that need is to be satisfied using two different kind of technologies, right? So, there could be numerous other, I think you're a better person to talk about the numerous technologies associated with watch, right? Because this generation is more exposed to this. So alternate technology would be giving you an idea that what is that kind of a process being used by a company, and how is that process used? How is that process used in order to satisfy the need of the consumer, right? So you may be having different categories of watches produced with different kind of a technology, right? Analog watches hoti hain aapki, mechanical hoti hain, as I said, quartz watches hoti hain, and so many other things. So that's the way the company would be defining itself when I'm dealing with so many lines here. Another is, what is the customer group here? Because you might be producing different lines of product. You might be having different categories of products, right? And in the same category, you might be having different consumer group to satisfy. Maybe you have women, maybe you have men, maybe you have children, and so on. So it defines that who is being satisfied. Okay, so it is defining you who is being satisfied. So I'm talking about your customer groups. Right? So now can you understand one thing? The number one, when I'm talking about the customer functions, it is focusing on what product provides basically to the consumer, right? If you talk about the alternate technology, how this need is being satisfied by the company, right? I mean, it is just giving you an answer. And when you talk about the customer group, that is the third point, it defines that who is that group and who is the person who is being satisfied because of the kind of, business you are in, or maybe the kind of product offering you make in the market. So that is the business definition. Now, this business definition, you use it in order to, like, you have different kind of organization. I'll just focus on that also here. You have different kind of organizations. Maybe you have a very simple organization where you do not have a number of hierarchies, right? Or maybe you have a kind of an organization which is a very complex organization. That means you have number of hierarchies. Or maybe you have number of SBUs, that is the strategic business units, right? So you have number of SBUs here. So as and when, the nature of the organization becomes complex in nature, then and then the business definition also becomes complex in nature, right? Maybe at one point of time, if you're a very simple organization, all right, if you are a simple organization, a simple company, you might be dealing maybe 1 or 2 products at the same time. And maybe you do not have multiple varieties, but maybe you will be dealing with a limited variety of products, right? So here, defining your business would be easier, right? In terms of defining what is your customer function, in terms of defining what is your alternate technology being used, because jitne aapke products increase honge, and as and when you increase your units in the organization, right, maybe the number of technologies you use would be increasing in number, and then definitely your customer groups also will increase in number as and when your organization becomes huge and you have numerous product offerings to make to the market and so on. So what exactly I mean to say is your business definition is simple when it is a simple organization, right? It is a very, or icons associated with it, it is a small organization. Just a second. Right? And definitely it becomes complex in nature as the organization becomes huge, right? Huge in the sense that you have multiple customer functions. Maybe you have numerous products to offer to them. You have different technologies, and then you have different consumer groups to offer. Now, what is the purpose of these organizations here? The purpose of all these organizations is when you define the business, you come up with a business model. Very important for you to understand. What is the business model of a business? Everyone needs to have an idea that if a business is operating, what is its business model? Business model is nothing, but it just gives you a precise idea that how the business is making money, right? How the business makes money. Right? That is important for you to understand. That is the business model of any organization, of any company. So now let me just, throw some light on this business model, because everybody would like to understand how the different organizations, how the different companies working on different platforms earn money. How do they really get that, profit, when they offer their offerings in the market. Let me just give you a very simple example of e-newspapers, right? Now, e-newspapers, they can afford to give you the free internet editions, right? They give you numerous free internet editions. That means you can have an excess of it and you do not even need to pay for it. Because what they are doing is, because they are earning money through the advertisements which are displayed online, right? So that is their business model, right? This is how they earn money. Despite of giving you the e-newspapers, right, free of cost, because there will be so many advertisements on the same platform, that's how they're going to earn money, right? That's how they are going to generate revenue. So that is a business model of any kind of a website you talk about, any kind of a newspaper who are giving you the editions online. Maybe another simple model, I just took up an example of the e-newspaper in terms of services here. Let me pick up an example of the retail organizations, right? Retail stores. For example, aapke big bazaars ho gaye, right? D-Mart hai, and so many other organizations. How do they earn profit? It is simple, as we have discussed previously in this same session, that you add on the margin, the profit margin to the cost you have incurred, right? That is going to give you the profit. So that's a simple, way of defining that how the business is earning profit, right? Maybe you add your markup and then you decide on your selling price and you sell it in the market. That's a simple way of earning money, right? Now, the business model is basically, it's giving you an idea how the businesses are earning money. हम Paytm की बात करें यहाँ पर, right? Again, this is going to be good enough. Or let's take up an example of Big Bazaar also, right? How they are doing it, right? How Big Bazaar is doing, how Paytm is doing. Now, what is Big Bazaar doing, or what is DMart doing, or what is Walmart doing? You know, they all are working on the similar platform, because these organizations are working on a very huge platform, right? So they are making the purchase in bulk. I hope you remember, even in the last class, we discussed about the same concept, that if we purchase anything in bulk, right, there will be economies of scale. If you buy anything in bulk, there will be a discounted price for it, right? And as a result, this benefit can be passed on to your consumer. So you buy in bulk, and that ultimate benefit is passed on to the consumer. And that is going to increase your consumer base. Is that clear? Big Bazaar ने अपनी एक tagline के साथ आया था, if you remember, इससे सस्ता और कुछ नहीं. Right? They always say, इससे सस्ता कुछ और नहीं, और कहीं और नहीं, right? So that is the concept. Kahi nahi, I think, is the right statement here. They came up with this kind of a tagline because they wanted to prove that you will not get the products at the same price anywhere else. इससे सस्ता कहीं और नहीं. So यहाँ पर उन्होंने, they took up those materials from the suppliers in the market, those the final goods, and ultimately increased their consumer base. So their profit margin, I repeat, their profit margin is less, but their turnover is very high, right? Because that is increasing their consumer base, as I said. That is a business model of Big Bazaar, or you talk about Walmart, right? Or you talk about DMart, they're working on the same platform here, right? In fact, when I pick up an example of Walmart, I would say they are working on two different models here, business models. One is known as EDLP, that is everyday low pricing, right? So they're working on this model of providing the goods at low prices and every day. And which is also, there is another business model associated with it. We call it EDLC, that is everyday low costing also. So whenever I am incurring any cost, I make sure as an organization that I do not increase my costing, because my ultimate aim is that I will not play with my pricing, right? I cannot afford to increase my price because that is going to decrease my consumer base. Do you all understand that? So this is the business model of Walmart. So they actually want to lead on price. That's what they actually intend to do in the market. Now talking about, I was picking up an example of Paytm here. What is Paytm doing basically? Paytm is, when it came up in the market, it's a kind of an e-wallet. Everybody knows about it, right? When it came up in the market initially, I'm talking about its initial years, right? Basically, it was used to recharge. That was a model used by Paytm. It started as online recharge. Now, slowly and gradually, it came up with Paytm Mall, right? So it had a business through that also, right? You're buying it, so you have number of suppliers on that Paytm Mall, and if there is a lot of purchase going on from the consumer, so Paytm in between is charging some commission or whatever you call it, right? So there is some kind of fees associated with it, and that is making the Paytm earn money. Apart from that, we are still doing recharges. We are still, transferring money from one bank account to the another. From one person to another. So let's see account transactions also, right? So again, whoever party is involved, right, through which the platform which is generally used by Paytm. So it charges all commissions, right? If you talk about a bank, so it is charging a commission. If you talk about another, party, as I was saying, from the suppliers in the market, if you're talking about a Paytm mall, right? So again, it is charging the commission. So that is a business model of Paytm. What? Commissions here, right? Because it is getting a fees, it is getting a commission. So that is the complete business model of Paytm. So each and every organization, each and every company is trying to decide that what am I supposed to do? If it is a product, definitely I add on the margins to it, the profit margins to it, and I earn profit, right? And if it is any kind of a service which I'm giving, so how it has to be played with, how I have to earn money. So that kind of a business model has to be developed by the organizations. All right. I hope this is all clear to you, because each and every organization and each and every company would be having their different kind of a business model. If you want to get into the intricacies, you have to understand the business model of all the companies, right? Each one of them decides how do they work, because you never know. Sometimes the business, they try to project themselves as a discount store, right? वो भी उनका एक अपना एक projection है. I mean, some of the organizations, they believe that we don't want to increase the customer base at all, right? We believe that we should have a quality customer base with us. So even if it is an average consumer base, but I will be increasing my pricing, right? So as a result, my margin will increase. If the margin is increasing and if my consumer base is not increasing, I'm okay with it. Right? So here I'm able to recover my costing because of my margins, but not because of my turnover, right? Not because of any kind of a change taking place in my consumer base. So that is a very important thing here. Understanding the business model of the different organizations, definitely that must have given you some kind of an insight how they are developing. But still, I would recommend once you go back from my class, just open up, some kind of platform for you. Google search kariya, whatever you want to do. Try and find out the different business models of your choice of companies. That would really help you out to understand how the companies are earning. What is their basis of earning profit. All right. So here. All right. Okay, I thought maybe there was a question, so I started reading it. How did we get the certificate? Come on, students. Yes, you will be, I think that can be downloaded from the website, sir. Right. So that your certificates can be downloaded from the website. And now see and understand, I think it's not only the matter of certificate, right? You need to focus and understand what is being delivered to you. Right, we are trying our level best as one of the institute who's in the field of MBA and PGDM and offering this course so that the people around who are still at home can benefit out of it. So my request is just concentrate what we are talking about. Right, that is more important for you than to get e-certificate, and that surely you will be getting. Right. Okay. So how much time do I have? Otherwise, I would like to take up one simple, yes? Yeah? We have 20 minutes with us? All right. Okay. Yes, Ehsan Ali, thank you so much. All right, we'll come to that later. I'll have a discussion with you later by the end of the session. Now I want you to understand that we are through with this business model. We have understood what is business definition. Now let's try to understand that when the marketers are trying to determine the pricing, you remember when I was discussing about pricing, I said I would like to take that concept little in depth, right? So I am just trying so that you have a good insight about it. There is one concept which is known as segmentation, right? Each and every business plans its business activities in such a way so that the market is segmented into different, parts, into some smaller units to which it can cater to differently, right? So I might cater to the needs of, like for example, the whole business market, the whole market is divided into on the basis of gender, right? Maybe I say females, males, right? Right? So you accordingly design your products in such a way so that you cater to the needs of these two different segments of your market separately. Apart from that, what you do is maybe you divide the market on the geographical basis. So we apply segmentation ka basis hota hai. And then maybe according to the regions, maybe you have one particular area to cater to, then the another area to cater to. So there could be numerous ways through which you divide the market on the basis of gender, on the basis of age, on the basis of the needs and desires, geographical location ki baat kari thi, and so on. I'm not going into detail into it, but what I want you to understand is that this segmentation makes you understand, number one, that which kind of a product will you be offering to your consumer, and you will be able to understand the separate needs of different segments which you have concluded on, right? So males would have a different kind of requirement, females would have different. One location might be preferring or they have a different kind of a taste. The another geographical location has a different kind of a taste, right? Now, you must have also seen that on the basis of locations, the kind of pricing the companies they come up with is entirely different, right? The pricing is also different. I'll just give you one example here. I mean, when you travel from Jaipur to Delhi, because I stay in Jaipur, so I'm just giving you an example here. from Jaipur to Delhi, maybe in between when I, stop at some kind of, maybe gas station or a petrol pump. So the rates are different, right? I mean, maybe the petrol rates here in Jaipur might be different. What I get in Gurgaon might be something else, right? So, there is always a way in which the pricing of a particular commodity is concluded on. So there are certain parameters also on the basis of which it is done. So let's try to find out that parameter here now again in this pricing part of my session. Yes. So what is exactly, as I told you earlier, pricing is one of that P, in your marketing mix, right? Which is capable of generating revenues for your organization, right? That's the basis. I mean, you can really decide that how much is going to be the profit. What a company will, this is nothing but what a company is going to receive in exchange for its product, right? So there are certain pricing factors like aapki cost hai, which is one of the factor which the company considers, or maybe the kind of a market in which it is dealing or it will be dealing in, right? Or maybe what is the competition in the market, which again becomes one of the parameter in deciding that what will be the pricing of my commodity. Yes, because sometimes you have to be very competitive in the market. Competitive pricing is very important. You do not decide just on the basis of the cost being incurred by you and adding thereafter the profit margins to it, but you have to see that how the other competitors in the market are doing it, right? So you have to be at par with them, otherwise you will lose your market share anyways, right? Another part of it is that what is your manufacturing cost? Cost, as I said, is one of the important part. And yes, I would say even market condition is also very important. Now, why market condition? I think this point is very important for you to understand. This is a very good example that where we are right now because of a lot of fluctuations taking place in our economy. Sometimes those fluctuations, sometimes maybe there is a economic slowdown and sometimes the economy is actually prospering and it's blooming, right? Even that kind of a condition makes the company decide, makes the organization decides that what would be the pricing of my commodity, right? So if the company, if there's economy is flourishing, right, and if it is flourishing, that simply states what? I mean, you have good employment, people have good opportunities in the market, and of course the earning power increases and your pocket size also increases, the per capita income increases. So as a result, you know it that from where you can charge how much. Right. So again, that is one of the factor which is taken into consideration, your economic situation, right? Your market condition, which is very important. The image of your brand, again, which is very important in order to decide about the pricing. Of course, the brand which is not a well-known brand cannot afford to price high its products, right? So that is again one of the factor here. You have to always keep in mind the kind of a quality offering which you are making to the consumer. What kind of a quality is it? Good, bad, medium, what it is, like inferior hai, superior hai. So that would again determine that what is going to be the pricing. Again, one of the very important factor. So we understand pricing is not just based on cost, right? I mean, generally people say cost mein humne apne profit margins add kar diye, and that would give us, the actual pricing or the sale price of commodity. But you need to understand how this overall market is working, how your business internally is working and externally is working, and then decide on, because you need to have an idea about, I think you must have heard about SWOT, the strength, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats of the market, right? So you need to understand what are your strengths and weaknesses. That means you're talking about internally about your organization. Then you talk about the opportunities and threats in the market. That means you talk about the external environment of your business, right? So that's how you do it. So you divide it basically in two parts of understanding your business, that it's strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. If you really think that you have a strength over your competitors in the market, that means you're able to compare this internal environment of your business with the external environment, and you really feel that you have a lot of opportunities, and you really feel that you are strength and you're powerful in the market, I think that makes you a powerful brand, right? And if you become a powerful brand, right, that actually here you can afford to price a commodity. Is that a good pricing. So there are so many things which you will be looking forward. I'm just giving you a precise idea, right? How the generally this pricing is done. Now, firms, they use different kind of pricing strategies for the products they offer in the market. Sometimes this kind of a strategy is dependent on the stage of the life cycle of the offering of the product, I would say, right? That means currently in which phase it is. Life cycle of a product is sometimes, it is a product which is just has been launched, or maybe it is something which is on the developing platform, and sometimes it comes to a stage of maturity and then there is a downfall. This is how generally the product moves, right? After introduced kiya, it has started developing, started giving you good returns, and then it has come to a maturity in the way maybe there are a number of competitors in the market, and you know it that now you cannot do anything. Now there is no scope of designing new strategy for your business. So just be where you are. But slowly and gradually, because where you are, right, cannot sustain for a long time. So there will be your chances of downfall too, right? So, I mean, this is how the business, the cycle and your product life cycle moves. I mean, this is just a simple way of explaining it to you. So what I'm talking about is your pricing would be actually dependent on the kind of, the stage of your product, in the product life cycle. Maybe you are in the introduction. Like, for example, you are in the introduction stage. So what is it? Maybe you are new to the market. You have been newly introduced to the market and you are a new product basically, and people do not know about you. The consumers are not aware. So what you need to do is at least make the consumer try the product of your company once. So in that situation, maybe the companies, they come up with the minimum pricing, right? The low pricing here, so that you can increase, you can say, the chances of the consumers to try your product once at least, right? And if there is a satisfaction, if they like it, of course, in future, there will be a brighter chances that they will keep on buying, purchasing and consuming, right? So at least once during that introductory phase, you would like the consumers to try your product once. And slowly and gradually, once your product start moving to a development stage, and when you know that your market is developing, the consumers have started liking you, now it is the time when you can afford to charge a little high pricing for it, right? Now you are in the development stage. You know that the competitors in the market now scared of you, right? Because you have started developing, and you have started, because if you develop, what does that really mean? If you are developing, you're taking away your competitors' market share with you, right? So in that situation, you are basically, posing some kind of a threat and fear to your competitors, and you are developing. So here you have a brighter chances, right? That you can charge or you can increase the pricing. And then you go to a maturity stage. Yes, at the time, you know it. Now, this is the time I really cannot do anything. So I have to stay with that same pricing. And then finally, there is a downfall. Downfall, that means, the demand of your commodity is decreasing in the market. So maybe slowly and gradually, you would decrease the prices so as to increase the consumer base. Right. This kind of a trick might also work out and bring you back to some other, maybe the previous stage, right? But sometimes it always says that now it is the, the lifetime lifespan of your product has really come to an end, right? That could be a reason. So it could be anything. So that's how generally the consumers, they look forward that how the product is doing in the market, and marketers, they decide on the pricing, keeping in mind the stage of the product. Now, when I'm talking about that introductory part of it, I'm using two words here, which is known as, number one is the price skimming, and number two is price penetration. Now, see, as the word suggests, I was actually talking about the second point of price penetration, right? Price penetration is penetrating the market. I have never been able to enter that market. Now I have to enter a new market, or I have to introduce a new product. So what I will do is I'll come up with a low price. Okay? That's an example which we have already taken. That's a price penetration. The another way of doing it is price skimming. Now, price skimming, the way Apple company has done it, it comes up with a very good quality of product, and it knows it that I'm not going to serve the needs and requirements of every Tom, Dick and Harry, right? So what I need to do is that I have to understand that there has to be one section of the market which I'm going to cater to. So that is my price skimming. I will take away the creamy layer of the market with me. Right? So if I'm taking that creamy layer, so I know that these are the people who have a good capacity to pay, so I can afford to charge my products little high as compared to the other competitors. Okay? So ये हमारी होती है price skimming strategy. All right. To develop a system, one might require an increased capital and resources. Yes, Ashina, you're absolutely right here. Because whenever you want to develop your sustainable competitive advantage, you really need some good amount of capital with you, because sustainable competitive advantage is dependent on your market research to a very great extent, right? If you do good market research and if you have good information related to it, you would be able to take an appropriate decision. So you need increased capital, you need resources with you in order to develop that sustainable competitive advantage. You're absolutely right. Is it appropriate to compromise your unique selling proposition to gain that advantage? This is something which is absolutely making a compromise on your business definition. Your question is actually related to my business definition concept here, right? See, as and when you try to incorporate more into it, your business definition changes, right? And the customers, they become confused in nature, right? If you lose on your USP, unique selling proposition, I mean, the consumer would be like, that's what my company was talking about earlier, and this is what my company is talking right now. So which is actually, am I supposed to believe? So that is creating a lot of confusion, which the company should never be doing, right? So if you have one kind of a business model or one kind of a business definition, you should stick to it, right? And if you keep on increasing the line of products in the market, of course, you can have different USPs for the different line of products, but you should not be compromising on that. Okay, see, that's what, there is something which is known as a celebrity endorsement. The another one which is known as, like, you have seen number of brands which they generally do not do a lot of advertisements on TV, because they really feel that, they generally take away the market without advertisement, right? They don't even have to talk about their products at all. And before the product is launched, there is always a booking done. So what you're talking about in terms of Mercedes and those high-end products in the market, which doesn't need advertisements. Before the company does anything, it's always there in the market. It's always there in the news, right? So these companies, they avoid reason because they know it that this product is not made for an average earning consumer, right? So why do I need to advertise it that way, right? I know that which kind of a crowd is going to be diverted towards me, and I know the strategies of doing it. So they don't need to do, promote or advertise the way you're talking about here, right? There is a question here, Mansha. Mansha, do you think low price in the beginning and then increasing later on will affect the consumer mind? Will consumer retain or leave? It's a very, very good question. See, what generally happens is, now I gave you an example of a price penetration here, right? You enter the market with a low pricing, and slowly and gradually you increase the price as and when you develop in the market. One has to build up its market image and status in such a way that your increase in price is always correlated with the improved quality, right? Or maybe that's that you're coming up with some advanced features, or there is something new added to it, and something which can make the consumers believe that you have really worked upon in improving the overall organization and the product offerings. Then yes, of course, if it is not going to affect your image at all. But over a period of time, there are certain situations where you do not do any kind of modifications in your product, but still there is a price rise, and the consumers, they definitely understand it very well because the quality is good, right? And now the product is something which is trusted on, right? So it is not going to reduce your market share at all, right? So it is related to few of those product categories which are actually very exclusive in the market, and the consumers have started trusting the brand so much that they really don't mind paying extra, to the products, as in the case of your question here. Does this come under process or product? I think this is an incomplete question here. Do you have something Does this come under process of product? Some packaging and labeling for tea companies, but the ingredients mixes are different in Mumbai and Punjab. Okay. The reasons Punjab people prefer Malai Marke, so the flavor need to be more concentrated, of course, yes. So see, this kind of a strategy is keeping in mind that which kind of a consumer group are you catering to. So you have a different segmentation of the market, right? You go to the different places and the same kind of product has different ingredients into it. And to cater to the needs and demands of the different geographical areas, having different taste and preferences, you try to incorporate a lot of changes into it. Yes, you can say that it is related to segmentation, understanding the different lots of markets, and then designing your strategies accordingly and changing your product accordingly. That modification is required. I think that is a market segmentation which is making you understand it. Okay. Like brand like Realme, Xiaomi in case of mobile, okay. It happened with Kingfisher Red, they increased their price and all their customers shifted to the other airlines, right? See, now this is a case. This is a case where maybe your product was not able to justify, right? Do you remember in last class, I quoted one point of pricing power. How many of you remember that? If you remember, please write down your answers. I took up this point, pricing power, in my last class. Now, let me relate it to your question here. How many of you remember? Can you define what is pricing power? What is pricing power? It's something which is related to, you have two different set of consumers in the market. Number one is who are price sensitive consumers. The another one is who is not at all sensitive to the pricing, right? So if the consumer is not price sensitive, that means the companies would be actually focusing and targeting on those consumers, or even if it is not, if they are increasing the pricing, right, it is never ever going to affect their demand. So that is the pricing power the company has. It could be maybe because the kind of image they hold in the society, or it could be because the kind of maybe the product offerings they make, or the quality of the product they are giving to the consumers. So that has actually helped them in building their pricing power. So they are powerful as far as the pricing is concerned. They can increase their prices and they are very sure about it that it is not going to decrease their market share at all, right? iPhone examples you explained yesterday. Absolutely. I hope I'm happy, Mansi, that you remember that example, right? Related to pricing power. Absolutely good. Nice. Any others? So, ma'am, what if anyone want to come with a luxury product in the market? Yes, that's a price skimming, dear. You know, that's what I told you. There are a lot of things in pricing. I tell you, pricing is a very detailed chapter, a very detailed concept, right? And if we really need some kind of in-depth explanation to it, we might need 1 or 2 sessions more on it, right? Price skimming, I have just given you the basics of pricing here. Price skimming is when you take away the cream of the market, right? You know, the elite consumer group, or maybe with a good, purchasing power, right? Can afford it. So you, come up with the luxurious product in the market with the good pricing strategy, right? So that's a price skimming. The effect that increasing or reducing the price of product that has on demand, right? Okay, so you were trying to answer my pricing power here. Absolutely. Rolex watch is also example of the exclusive product. Absolutely. WhatsApp has lost its customer base in the last few days because of its new policies, but as of now, the policies are delayed for 3 months. Will they be able to attract the consumers again by this marketing strategy? See, the marketing strategy depends on the kind of consumers you're dealing in. Now, the consumers, they have become so much of reliant on, these social media platforms. So if they really feel that these kind of policies are not going to bother them much, or this would not have any kind of an effect on their usage system, I think the things will remain as it is. Okay, is pricing power a myth? Okay, see, pricing power, you cannot say it's a myth, but I think it's a kind of, the power, or that, you can say the strength which you gain over a period of time from the market, right? Why am I using this word from the market? Because this comes to you when the market starts believing in you, right? When the market feels that the company is a trustworthy company, when the market believes, right, that the company has a very strong platform, right? Or maybe when the consumers have trust in you as far as the, the product and the offerings being made by you. So this kind of association, trust, faith, and confidence, right, would definitely not make the pricing power on it. It would actually make a company a powerful company, and it can actually play with the pricing strategies, right? बहुत सारी strategies होती हैं, or even strategies होती हैं, right? You come up with competitive pricing, as I have already discussed, right? Could be. Is not price skimming discrimination based on economic class? See, it is not about price skimming, right? It is the variable pricing. As I said, it's a very big chapter. Now, what you're talking about is a variable pricing. So maybe you talk about Maruti Suzuki, right? It has different models. Maybe something starting from 3.5 to 4.5, then you have 7.5 and like this, right? So this is nothing but you cater to different kind of economic class, right? Maybe the one category which can afford to buy till 3.5 lakhs, right? The another group of consumer who can afford to buy for 7.5 and so right. So it is not price skimming. It is the variable pricing which you have depending on the kind of a product you offer in the market. Right now, this is not applicable only to these luxurious products or maybe the expensive products in the market. Even if you talk about some of the FMCGs, you talk about the cookie market for that matter, right? So cookies, I mean, they come in different variants from the same company, and maybe one is priced at ₹5, the another is 20, the another one is 70. Right? You take up an example of Maggi here, right? Maggi, it has three variants. Number one, it comes with simple maida Maggi, that is a white Maggi. Then you have atta noodles, and then you have oats Maggi, right? Now you see the price difference in these three variants which is being offered, right? One is maybe, I think you might find it at ₹11. The another one is just double of the price. When you talk about oats, I think it is 3 times or 4 times of the previous, yeah. Any other question here? See, why completely on supply chain? Prateek here. Can we say business model depends on supply chain or vice versa? Not exactly on supply chain, because business model is nothing but it is trying to give you an idea that how the business is earning profit, right? So supply chain can be one of the way through which you might be reducing your costing, right? Or maybe supply chain is one of the way, you can say one of the variable through which you might, it might help you in earning profit. But this cannot be solely dependent on supply chain. So I think the statement here goes wrong a little bit, right? Yes, to some extent it makes a contribution, but not completely. It's totally dependent on the demand of the product, right? Shweta, there is something which has been written by you, but I think that is an incomplete statement, so I'm unable to understand. Okay, so Chandrama Saha, some of the companies and their marketing strategies tries to put an emphasis on the people to buy their product. They advertise their products through celebrities and different taglines, but their services are not up to the mark. Yes, definitely there are some companies. I mean, if you are using the celebrities here, that does not really guarantee the success of your product or maybe the quality of your product from the consumer's perspective, of course. Right. Is Apple and Netflix an example of pricing power? Right now, yes, I would say for Netflix, because we are completely dependent on that mode. Yes. Supply and demand, they go hand in hand. So can we say that pricing policy depends on both? Yes, depends on the supply, the kind of, because supply would be actually determining your costing, right? The kind of resources which you get from the market, right? That would be determining your costing. So yes, that is again one of the important determinant. And of course, demand is definitely yes, right? So as and when you feel the demand of your product is going high, yes, you cannot say that you have to be so flexible and you have to keep on changing your pricing as and when the demand is rising. No, because that would ultimately bring down the image of the company. So yes, that game doesn't have to be very frequent, but yes, it does depend on that. Okay. Yes, students here, it was really nice being here with you. I mean, I really hope that whatever I have got for you in terms of different concepts about marketing, that has given you some good insight, and hope that we meet soon. I don't know on which platform, but we may meet soon. Thank you so much. And I think rest of the questions can be answered by IT team. I think everybody knows about the certificates and all. And do let me know if you would like to have any other kind of sessions, such sessions. We would be really grateful to benefit our society because we are getting everything from the society. I hope you remember that concept too. Right. Okay. Thank you so much.